Friends, welcome to this press briefing on the Prime Minister's visit to Bangladesh starting tomorrow. We have with us Foreign Secretary Dr. S. Jaishankar, and I have Pratibha Parkar, who's Director in the Bangladesh-Myanmar Division. So I'll ask Foreign Secretary to begin the proceedings by giving you a broad overview of the Prime Minister's visit, and then we'll open up to questions. Sir.
Good afternoon. I'm here, as JSXP said, to brief you on Prime Minister's visit to Bangladesh. Now, those of you who've attended my briefings earlier would recall I'm generally very careful about using adjectives where I don't need to use them. But on this case, I would actually describe this as a very historic visit. And the reason is that the centerpiece of this visit, in a way, is the conclusion of our land boundary agreement with Bangladesh. All of you know it is our longest land boundary, and the achievement with which the Prime Minister would go to Bangladesh, and we will have the instruments of ratification exchanged during his visit, is really not an ordinary achievement. With the settlement of the land boundary, and there was earlier a settlement of our maritime boundary, we actually have completely settled our boundary with Bangladesh, and that is for a neighbor, for an extremely important development, and I cannot overstate the confidence and goodwill that is generated by this act. In fact, for us, there are two concepts at play in this visit. At one level, it is once again an affirmation of our neighborhood first policy, but it is also part of our Act East policy, because the consequences, the possibilities of cooperation that would be opened up as a result of these developments really has a very profound impact on our Northeast and on our policies further east. Now, what I would like to do is briefly talk about the program and then some of the issues in the visit. The Prime Minister arrives tomorrow morning, late morning in Dhaka. There will be a ceremonial welcome, and after that, he would be visiting the National Martyrs Memorial. He then goes on to the Bangabandhu Memorial Museum. And then after lunch, he and the Chief Minister of West Bengal would be, along with the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, would be flagging off the bus services. There are two important bus services. There is a Calcutta-Dhaka Agartala bus service, and there is a Dhaka-Guwahati-Shillong bus service. So they'll be flagging that off. Then this would be followed by a ceremony where there would be an exchange of instruments of ratification of the land boundary agreement and its protocol. This would then be followed by talks between Prime Minister and the Bangladesh Prime Minister, exchange of agreements. There are some foundation stones for different projects that we are doing in Bangladesh, so the virtual foundation stones would be there. And then there'll be a press statement by the two Prime Ministers. And finally, in the evening, a dinner hosted by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The second day of the visit would see a visit by our Prime Minister to the Sri Sri Dhakeshwari National Temple. He will then go on to visit the Ramakrishna Mission. He will also go to our new Chancery complex in Dhaka. And then he has a meeting and a lunch with the President of Bangladesh, His Excellency Mohammad Abdul Hamid. And he then receives a number of important Bangladeshi leaders, political and commercial. This would include the leader of opposition, Begum Roshan Irshad, the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Begum Khaleda Zia, presidents of leading chambers of commerce and industry, and leaders of the left parties of Bangladesh. The last engagement is a meeting which the Prime Minister would be addressing of a very broad cross-section of Bangladeshi society, which he'll be doing in the Bangabandhu International Conference Center. And then late in the evening, he would be returning to Delhi. So that's the program. Now, in terms of the issues in the visit, as I said, the centerpiece of his visit is the conclusion of the land boundary agreement. And we see at one level this having a impact across the board on the relationship. So we do think that this visit would consolidate and deepen the relationship. But other than the rising confidence levels, I think the point I would make is that it would actually help very much with the management of the border. That for both countries, we expect improvement of the security situation on the border. There will be more trust and confidence. We think that it would be much more effective for us to deal with illegal activities across the border, activities like human trafficking, circulation of counterfeit notes, drug smuggling, movement of people, illegal movement of people. So in terms of the stability and security on the border, we really think that both countries would benefit. In particular, the resolution of the problem of enclaves. The enclaves have in the past been territory which has been out of bounds for law enforcement agencies, and often they've been misused to seek refuge there by elements who have been undermining law and order. So there will be the clarity and the sort of, I would say, the discipline which would come from having clearly demarcated borders would certainly help to make the land boundary between the two countries that much more secure for both countries. Now, there is, I would suggest to you, a confidence dividend, that the fact that we are able to secure the border so much better allows us to do much more across the border. And I think a key factor here is connectivity. We expect during this visit to see more initiatives on connectivity, initiatives that would cover, I mentioned the bus services, but the movement of goods across the land border, the coastal shipping, inland waterways. So in a variety of ways, every aspect of movement of goods and people would in some form actually be addressed. We would even actually, we hope to have an understanding by which even telecom and internet would be benefited by cooperative arrangements between the two countries. I would also like to say a few words about our development cooperation with Bangladesh. Many of you are aware that we have a line of credit with Bangladesh. We have on the first line of credit about 15 projects. 7 of these projects have been done. 8 of them are under implementation. The rough volume of our commitments is about $860 million. And most of this was in the railway sector. Now, during the visit, we would be looking forward to expanding these projects, taking our development cooperation with Bangladesh to many more areas. So we expect to see projects in the field of rail, of course, in power, in roads, in ports, in health, in education. So you will get a much more broad-based cooperative landscape. That certainly would be one of our objectives. Specifically on power, I would like to flag your attention to the fact that, we do provide, we supply to Bangladesh 500 megawatts of power. We are expecting to increase this very substantially. and we might also supply power, not might, we will actually supply power from eastern Bangladesh as well. So certainly one of the outcomes of this visit would be to improve the energy situation in Bangladesh. We had a little while ago concluded an understanding to supply diesel to Bangladesh from West Bengal. Again, as part of the partnership between the two countries, you will see a better energy situation in Bangladesh. People-to-people contacts and movement is again an important part of our relationship. I mentioned the buses. I think if you see this bus connection would certainly make it so much easier for people to travel, because it cuts what is about a journey of 1650 kilometers to 450 kilometers. But we are looking at other aspects of people-to-people contacts, including more cultural contacts, the possibility of Bangladeshi TV programs being shown in India, and the ways of facilitating tourism, enhancing presence in each other's countries of the means to service the movement of people. And again, reverting back to the economic side, we expect that the visit would see improvement in the economic cooperation, particularly the investment climate between the two countries. We have been discussing for some time the possibility of setting up a special economic zone in Bangladesh, which could then anchor Indian investments there. Part of it is that that Bangladesh has had concerns about the trade balance, and we would like to see if those concerns in some form can be addressed through more Indian investments in Bangladesh. Our own feedback from the private sector is that today, taking the cues from the dramatically improved political atmosphere, that there's much more enthusiasm in the Indian private sector for doing projects in Bangladesh. So I think quite independently, possibly in parallel, you would hear from them on this subject. And finally, I think, for us, Bangladesh is, of course, a neighbor. It's an exceptional neighbor. But it is in many ways a symbol of a society where democratic roots have taken hold under very difficult conditions. We support Bangladesh as a democracy. We note their commitment to a pluralistic way of life. We applaud them as a very responsible neighbor with whom we have really developed a great relationship of mutual sensitivity. So I think that would be my broad outline, and if you have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them.
Okay, we now open up the floor for questions. One question each. Please identify yourself and your organization. The first question goes to Srinjoy Chaudhary.
So as far as Bangladesh is concerned, a large number of insurgent outfits are still in Bangladesh or in neighboring Burma. In fact, the same insurgents are in both countries. Will there be any effort this time to deal with that issue of insurgents in Bangladesh and, of course, people who go from Bangladesh and India to Burma? In view of this recent attack, it should be perhaps more important.
Well, the recent attack was not, to the best of my understanding, connected in any way with Bangladesh. But I think this issue has been part of our continuing conversations with Bangladesh. And again, I must repeat what I often tell you at these briefings, which is I don't predict what is going to happen, but I can see it as an issue that is likely to come up in the conversations.
Akhilesh Suman, Raj Sabha TV.
Sir, my interest is with the enclaves. We have visited enclaves on the India-Bangladesh border. So after this ratification is exchanged, what activity will we seeing on those areas?
What would happen after ratification is that there will be a certain date which is called an appointed date, and then we will be there will be an understanding of a time period when those people who wish to go to the country of origin, nationality, whatever you call it, will move. So when we actually do that exchange of the instruments of ratification, at that time we will make public what are the modalities to deal with the consequences of the implementation of the land boundary agreement and the protocol. But essentially, you could have the movement of some people from the enclaves to India. Obviously, we need to make preparations for that, and we have been discussing that with the government of West Bengal, who have been very cooperative on this matter. Oh, yes, of course.
Iftikhar Gilani, DNA newspaper. All these understandings with Bangladesh were possibly because of they addressed our security concerns. Bangladesh addressed our security, India's security concerns. Is the message for other neighboring countries as well?
You know, I never like to put relationships on conditional terms, particularly with neighbors who've been very positive about us. I'm not sure I would quite share your description of how this relationship has grown. You know, my own sense is that we have a partner government in Bangladesh, which is actually has an outlook and has an approach which makes it possible for two of us to work. We've actually discovered an enormous, I would say, agenda of shared interests. Today, if you look at areas like power or movement of people, energy, business, all of this has. If you bring a positive bent of mind to a relationship, I think you'll find things to do. So perhaps others should be more positive. Yes.
Niloba Roy Chaudhary.
Foreign Secretary, who other than the West Bengal Chief Minister will be accompanying the Prime Minister to Dhaka?
Could you, who meaning?
I mean, whom meaning the Chief Ministers of other states involved, who are they, and what, is there also a business kind of a delegation that is going with him?
No, there is the Prime Minister and the official delegation that regularly accompanies the Prime Minister, and then the Chief Minister of West Bengal, and I think there are some officials from the West Bengal government. To the best of my understanding, not, but I'm not the last word on that subject. I'll find a way by which Vikas can come back to you on that.
Charu.
Sir, I understand the Prime Minister will, apart from his meetings with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and others in the government, also be meeting some members of the opposition, as is usually the case. Will he also be among them meeting Begum Khalida Zia?
Yes, yes. No, I think you may have come in a little later. This is on Sunday. Prime Minister would be meeting the leader of the opposition, and then he would be meeting leader of left parties, and he would be meeting Begum Khalida Zia as well.
Yeah.
Sir, will the issue of...
Please identify yourself.
I'm Maha Siddiqui from India Today. Sir, will the issue of intolerance towards freedom of speech be raised in Bangladesh, because we are seeing the spillover effects in India because we've had to move out Taslima Nasreen to the US?
I'm baffled by the connection you are making. I mean, all I can say is that our understanding of what is happening in Bangladesh is, here is a democratic society where there are issues of intolerance and extremism in that society, and they have been battling it. And as one democracy, we sort of note their achievements and their efforts in that direction.
So this is Shomya Bandopadhyay from Bangladesh Prothom Alo as well as Kolkata TV. You have mentioned a very important thing, very briefly although, that is that Bangladeshi television programs will be shown in India. It's a very, very long-standing demand on the part of the Bangladesh. If you just elaborate it, how it's possible, will there be an agreement between government of India or Bangladesh, or because private television channels are there, so how can it be shown? How can they access?
Okay. You see, what will actually be happening is sometime around this time tomorrow, I'll be doing a briefing in Dhaka at the conclusion of the visit, where I'll actually be walking people down the agreements and understandings that we've been reached. So if you are there, I'd be delighted to share that answer. If you're not, watch the television. But I can at this stage just tell you broadly that it is our intent to we are working on an understanding by which this long-standing Bangladeshi demand that their television programs are shown in India, where they believe they have an audience, and we agree with them that we are trying to make that happen. Yeah, so just bear with me for 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm Kalyan Barra from Assam Tribune. Yeah, most of the chief ministers of northeastern states bordering Bangladesh have suggested that India should ask Bangladesh access to Chittagong port. So is India going to take it up?
Well, we have been discussing issues to deal with connectivity, and one of the issues which obviously is on the table is the possibility of how do we use ports more effectively to carry goods. And there are two aspects to this. One is actually the three aspects to this. One, of course, has been the inland waterway aspect. We have an old agreement, an old protocol that we hope to be renewing. Number two, we are discussing how we can actually find a way of agreeing on coastal shipping, so that you are able to get smaller craft to load and unload cargoes in smaller ports. And obviously, if you are going to load and unload cargo in ports, it makes sense that you discuss what happens to the cargo after that. The land movement of cargo. So I think these are all right now issues which are being worked upon. And hopefully by tomorrow this time you will see something.
Sabina Andajit from Infa. You just mentioned, given that the LBA is going to improve the security situation across the border and the fact that it's going to check illegal migration, which both the countries are impacted by. What about the illegal migrants which are already present in India, given the fact that the Assam Chief Minister has also been writing to the Prime Minister that what can be done about these illegal migrants? Is that issue also going to be taken up? Because I'm basically looking at the migrants already in our country.
I don't know. First of all, frankly speaking, that's not part of my remit. Because, within the government, another department really addresses that issue. So I'm a little careful getting into matters which I don't have direct oversight of.
सर मैं मनीष हूँ इंडिया टीवी से. पश्चिम बंगाल की मुख्यमंत्री ममता बनर्जी ने पीएम को एक लेटर लिखकर ये आपत्ति जताई है कि बांग्लादेश ने अत्रेई रिवर पर 2.14 किलोमीटर का एक कंक्रीट वॉल बना दिया है और इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं दी है. तो क्या माना जाए, जैसा कि आप कह रहे हैं कि हिस्टोरिक मोमेंट है लैंड बॉर्डर एग्रीमेंट के पर्सपेक्टिव में, तो स्टिल पश्चिम बंगाल के चीफ मिनिस्टर कुछ बातों को लेकर नाराज है?
नहीं देखिए, मैं नहीं कह रहा कि लैंड बाउंड्री एग्रीमेंट के कारण सब प्रॉब्लम्स चले जाती हैं. प्रॉब्लम्स तो होंगी, अब पड़ोसी हैं तो पड़ोसियों के साथ प्रॉब्लम नहीं होंगी तो किसके साथ होंगी. तो पर प्रॉब्लम यह है कि हिस्टोरिक मोमेंट है, वो खुद जा रही हैं वहाँ. आप ही सोचिए कि और उनका भी इसमें काफ़ी कंट्रीब्यूशन रहा है. तो ऐसे मौके पे आपको जो है वो माने बिग पिक्चर देखना चाहिए.
Parul Chandra, during the meeting of the Joint Consultative Commission between India and Bangladesh last year, it had been agreed, Bangladesh had handed over a list of barriers that are being faced by them in terms of trade. So what movement has happened on that to reduce those trade barriers, and are the two sides going to sign a renew the bilateral trade agreement during the Prime Minister's visit?
We have been discussing with Bangladesh very seriously how do we improve their trade access to India. We're very committed to doing so, and there are different ways by which you can do that. As you know, in terms of tariff lines, there are very, very few tariff lines which are now left, which are in any way where they face a problem. A lot of it are process problems, and I think there are issues, for example, of standards. There are issues of actually physical movement of goods. There are issues to do. Connectivity itself is a barrier. There are issues to do with paperwork on the border. Now, a lot of this we are dealing with bilaterally. But one point which I did not mention, but where Bangladesh is actually a very key player, is that we have reached a motorways agreement as part of a sub-regional grouping, what we call BBIN, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, which would allow for movement of vehicles from one country to the other. That would be very helpful again for the movement of goods and for promotion of trade. So there are process impediments. We are very conscious of that. We hope that more standardization of quality of goods, of standardization of the paperwork, better connectivity, more positive attitudes, perhaps more facilities at the border crossing points. I think all of this can find ways of improving the trade. But at the end of the day, we are also prepared to address this through more investments in Bangladesh, which we hope would generate backward trade linkage.
Sir, this is Gautam Lahiri. I represent Pratidin, Bengali Delhi. We understand that this time perhaps Tissa river water sharing is not on the table, but India-Bangladesh shares more than 50 rivers. So whether these water-related issues like river management is on the agenda or on the cards, or whether you will be discussing this issue, because recently the Bangladesh High Commission in a press briefing has said they want to reopen the Ganga water agreement because only 10 years left of this agreement. Whether these issues are coming up in this visit?
I can imagine that many of these issues would be the subject of conversations, but I think till those conversations happen, I wouldn't like to describe them. But if I could just make a quick point in regard to the last question, my colleague Pratibha tells me that when we last had a Commerce Secretary level discussion with Bangladesh, we had assured them that we would give them national treatment to their goods. So we are making a very conscious effort to find ways of increasing their exports to India. Yeah, we treat them the way we would treat Indian goods.
Yeah. Dr. Jaishankar, Venkat Narayan, a freelance journalist. There have been suggestions, particularly by Cabinet Minister of India, that the water resources of the entire subcontinent should be jointly managed to sort out the problem of floods and drought and so on. Is this an issue that could possibly figure in our talks in Dhaka tomorrow and the day after? Thanks.
In the manner in which you have described it? No, it is conceivable, as this gentleman pointed out, we share so many rivers. And if you see the history of the relationship, obviously river waters is something which is bound to be discussed. But I think from that's a very big jump you're making.
Foreign Secretary has to go for another meeting, so I'll just take two more questions. Mr. Ranjit Kumar.
Yeah, you talked about BVI and connectivity. When do you think it will become operational? How long it will take?
Oh, I think we are looking at that fairly soon. I cannot give you an exact date, but I mean we're looking at months. We expect I think to do it before the end of this year.
Last question, Naz Asgar.
Okay, it's even faster than that. I make it a few weeks.
मैं नाज असगर हूँ UNI से. Recently, Bangladesh High Commissioner had said border killings of civilians on the border create unnecessary acrimony between the two countries. So are there the two governments going to take any steps for border management? Any additional confidence measures?
Well, our expectation is that the implementation of the land boundary agreement would create the climate really for better border management. Already our forces at the border follow a non-lethal approach in that regard. But certainly, the expectation is that once there is more clarity, there would be better management.
I would like to thank the Foreign Secretary
thank you
for this briefing, and that concludes it. Thank you.